All right, welcome to another episode of Gordon's Garage, John Gordon's Garage. Let's see, we've got, it's bright out here, sun's bright. It's September. We've got several projects going on. We got clutch out of this Corvette here. We've got the Astro van, which I haven't posted or I haven't uploaded any videos on that yet. We've got a Will It Run on that. That's an 89. We've got this Vega behind me, 72 model. It's already been V8 swapped. I'm not going to post anything about that just yet. We're working on that one, so that'll be coming soon. But today we have this 1979 Chevrolet Silverado factory 454. Very nice truck. Very straight, very rust free. You know, obviously that hood's not factory. Hood open on this thing. Yep, factory big block truck, 454. Everything appears to be pretty original under here. Well, the carburetor's not original. I'm just seeing that's an Edelbrock. Power steering don't work so well on it, but as much as I hate to tell you guys, yes, it's getting lowered. This thing sits pretty high in the front. I'm hoping a round 3/4 is going to take care of what we got to do in the front, and then a flip kit in the back. We've got a set of wheels already sitting here in the bed waiting to be mounted. I'm going to give you the proper sizes and everything for these. You guys always asking, well, what size wheels and tires are you putting on there? And I've answered some of you in the comment section, but this video I'm going to give you all those specs and everything. I hate to just all the time show you these lower end videos and it's the same thing every time and not give you the specs. So we'll do that on this one. I might do a combo video. I don't know. But there's a video coming up is this Vega. I don't want to show too much about that yet. But yeah, it's been V8 swapped already. Motor's not locked up. It is a 4-inch bore block. Not sure if it's a 350 or 327 yet. Last time it ran was in 04. So it's going on about 20 years since it's been on the road. So picked it up at a fair price. That rust is just surface. It's not real deep. So I don't think it's going to take much to bring that back. Okay, so we've got this 79 up on the lift. Just getting started on this thing. I've had it for a week, almost 2 weeks now. I just have not had the time to get it done. But I got the wheels off. They're all sitting over here, the old wheels. That is a really cool set of wheels. I saved all his lug nuts and offset washers. But those tires really have some deep cracks in the tread. See that? So you wouldn't want to drive on those very long. You'd end up having a blowout. So we're going to go ahead and tear this thing apart. A lot of times I'll torch the springs, but being this is a big block, I just don't want to heat those springs up any. I'm going to pull them out and cut them. I did notice someone has replaced the brake hoses and they did not take the time to bolt it back into that upper control arm. So we'll take care of that for him while we have the vehicle. We may go ahead and shim the camber out just a little bit, but he doesn't have much to go. I could only probably get a couple of shims in it. So all this wet under here is from his high pressure power steering line. So I'm gonna have to hunt down a high pressure power steering line and get that replaced for him. I've already called my usual source for these trucks, and they didn't have one, or they did not have a vendor for one. So that shouldn't be too hard to find on this truck. I don't know what the deal was over there, but anyway, here we go. Okay, so I've got the spring out of the passenger side. Now I'm going to walk you through this on the driver's side. So I'm going to show you the way I do this when I'm going to pull a spring out. A lot of you know this, but some of you might be trying to learn. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the shock loose. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the sway bar loose. I'm going to get the tie rod off, so I'm not fighting the gearbox or anything. It's just loose. I got plenty of play. And then I'm going to take the lower ball joint nut loose, and I'm going to take the lower control arm loose from the ball joint. Okay, and we'll swing the upper control arm up with the caliper and the brake rotor and get that out of our way. You can see how I've done that over here. See, I've got the tie rod loose, I've got the sway bar out, I've got the shock out, and I've got the upper control arm and the spindle and everything. I can just swing that right out of my way when I'm trying to get the spring in and out. You'll never get that spring out unless you take this sway bar loose and this shock loose and let that control arm fall, that lower one. See how it'll fall now? It won't do that with that sway bar hooked to it. The sway bar will be holding it to the other side. So let's get started. I've got my tool cart here with all the tools on it that I need already, because I've already been to the other side. Or I don't know if I've ever been to the other side. That didn't sound right, but oops, sorry. I have been to the passenger side. That sounds better. Let me get my gloves on. Try to stay clean. Try to keep my hands somewhat clean. Don't always happen, but this helps. It's minimal investment. Just to keep some clean hands. I'll worry about it. Some people don't worry about it, so whatever. All right, so we're going to get this shock loose. It's a lot easier for me. I have a lift, but trust me, I've worked for 30 years without a lift. We just started getting lifts recently. I worked on my back and my floor jacks and creepers and all that for years and years, and got along just fine. And I may have to do that again sometime. Don't get me wrong though, we still do. I work off of creepers still every once in a while. All right, so we've got our shock loose. Now see, when I don't have my tie rod loose yet, I gotta fight the gearbox. And we're gonna spill power steering fluid. It'll push power steering fluid back up into the pump when you turn it, and it'll overflow it. So now I'm gonna come over here to this side, and we're gonna get that tie rod loose. If I can find my light, Lighting is always an issue. That's probably the biggest issue and concern in a shop, is trying to see things. Lighting is an issue. And setting up all these camera angles is an issue as well. Okay, so here's what we're gonna take your cotter pin out. Now sometimes on these old trucks, these things will be so rusty and everything. Sometimes you gotta really fight to get them out. This truck is not the case. It actually is pretty clean. Plus we've had a power steering leak over here on this side, so everything is nice and oily. So things are coming loose nice. So here goes our tie rod. That tie rod nut off. And here's what I usually do. I don't usually use a pickle fork. You can use a pickle fork if you want, or a ball joint separator. I usually just hit it right here. Just a few hits and she'll come right loose. You're not going to damage anything. Somebody might argue with me that that's wrong, but I've always done it that way. Never had any problems. Okay, so now see, all we have to do is get our lower ball joint loose. So before we do that though, we want to put our jack under the lower control arm here, because if she decides to break loose before I want it to, that coil spring could jump out of there and really hurt me. Get our transmission jack up under there and just get a little pressure on it. I've not always had a transmission jack either. That was something that became necessary after I got my lift, because floor jack's not tall enough to drop the transmission out anymore. So here, we just get up under here and get these sway bar links loose. All right, so we got our sway bar nuts off. I forgot about that. Now we can get our ball joint loose. We got to get the Carter key out of there. We got to be able to see it. These things are usually kind of tedious, especially if the vehicle has a lot of road miles and just has never been properly maintained. It's going to have so much road grime and dirt and mud and everything caked up in there. You'll spend a lot more time getting your Carter keys out, or Carter pins, I meant. And this truck, I do not believe, has ever been loose. Here's what that looks like. I'll put new ones back in. It's a minimal investment. So now we'll break our ball joint nut loose. That's an 1 1/8 on this truck. Pretty kind of some heavy duty ball joints on this one. It's got that 454 in there. I'm sure they put some beefier front end parts on this truck, being that it's a big block. Spray that ball joint down with a little WD. Penetrating Earl. And then we'll just work this nut off of here. Show a little better. A little better view of what's going on down here. So see, it's kind of a little dirty, but not what I would call crusty. That's just normal. You're going to have a lot of road grime and all that. So this is what I'm going to do for the next 2 minutes, is wrench this nut off of here. Now I'm going to do the very same thing here that I did with the tie rod. We'll hit that spindle with this hammer a few times and she should break loose. See, she jumped loose. Now we can slowly begin to let our jack down in order to get that spring out. Move that jack. Now at this point, that spring is loose enough to where it's not going to hurt you, but you still need to respect it. Always stay clear of it. All right, there she is. Nice set of big block springs that we're gonna mess up and cut around and 3/4 off of. Shame on us. All right, so with our springs, I know you're used to seeing me torch these, but in this case I'm going to cut it with my cutting wheel. So what I usually do is I go one whole round, which is there, and then I'll go a 3/4 of a round. So a half would be over here. Then 3/4 is going to be right here. One full round, a half, 3/4. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take a round and 3/4 out of it, because that's what always works. If we get too low, we get too low. I think my wheel's getting a little thin. Let me put a new wheel on. Should be about there. Oh, yeah, there it is. Woo! Round and 3/4. Okay, so on this 79, we did get the front all put back together. Get the wheels mounted. We got the rear flipped. I didn't film that just because y'all have seen me do that 1,000 times now. It is going to need shock extensions. I don't have those. I'll have to order some or make some. So we're going to let it down. See where she sits. So as usual, we're sitting on the drag. About where it needs to be. It's a little high in the front, but after I move it, it should squat a little bit. Crank this thing up and move it. There she is. It looks good. All right, so we've got all the details worked out on the 79. Got a new power steering hose for it and got that put on. O'Reilly's Auto Parts actually had that power steering line when nobody else in the universe had it. So just so you know, we're going to getting ready to take it on a test drive. See what a factory 1979 big block Silverado will do. Of course, I don't think it's factory anymore about the sound of that engine. It is a factory big block, but I'm sure somebody has put some goodies in it. So we'll take it down the road here and see. Carburetor ain't set up right on it, I can already tell you that. We'll take it down the road here and see how she do. The choke is not set right on it. I mean, I've had it running long enough, it should have already come off its high idle. All right, 1979 Silverado short bed truck, 454, big block, custom hood, lowered. Again, y'all are used to seeing me drive up and down Never Satisfied's driveway. I'm over here on my side of town now, so we don't have as long of a driveway. This thing's kind of a turd. What in the world? It don't even shift gears. You gotta be kidding me. Sounds like I got a vacuum leak. Sounds like I think the vacuum modulator must have come loose or something, because we are not shifting gears. I know they didn't drive it all the way over here this way. Let me turn around up here and go back to the shop. It's always freaking something. Always something. Well, here we go back down to the shop. Thing's a complete turd. It won't shift. It's the way it goes though. All you do is you lower a truck and put a power steering hose on it, and all of a sudden it won't shift. It's got a vacuum leak. It's always the mechanic's fault. All right, so here we go again in this 79 turd. I did find the vacuum line down at the transmission modulator was broken, leaking vacuum down there. So we'll go see. Oh, you turd. We'll go see what this thing's all about. I'm highly disappointed so far. I mean, it rides good. Feels good up and down this driveway. Feels like the suspension is right. But I wasn't here when they brought this truck. I'm starting to wonder if they towed it here or if they drove it here, because all these things didn't happen to this truck just from sitting here. Shifting now, but it's a turd. shifting, but it's a turd. For a 454, almost feel like my throttle's not. I feel like my throttle is not going all the way. That's probably the weakest big block I've ever felt. She rides good though. Feels real good. Steering is straight. I feel like the throttle cable is not pulling that carburetor all the way back, which I didn't mess with that, so I don't know whether I ought to fix that for him or not. My biggest thing was to lower it for him and get the steering fixed. Not sure if they want me to mess with that or not. I guess I'll find out. It's probably going to stall on me too. Oh yeah, it's a piece of turd. There ain't no way they drove this thing to me. It's almost out of gas. They brought it here on an empty tank of gas. This thing is so underpowered. I cannot believe. Just the way this big block sounded when it was idling and at idle when I goose it. I mean, I thought this thing would take off like a rocket ship. But not so. Ride's nice though. Steering don't leak anymore. It's a piece of crap. Oh well, what are you going to do? You can't come up to you can't sneak up on a stop without it stalling. I like the way it rides though. I think they're going to be happy with the way it looks. We could get that motor right. I mean, it's the motor's good. I mean, it builds oil pressure and don't knock or anything. Just idle it up a little bit and get the throttle cable pulling that carburetor back all the way is all it is. I mean, I guess. I mean, that is a turd. I wonder if they got the timing all screwed up on it or something. Something has happened. All right, so it seems we ran this thing out of gas. I went up to the QT and got us 5 gallons of gas and poured a little bit of True Fuel down in the carburetor. So we'll get this thing cranked back up and see what happens. So far, I am not impressed with this engine in this truck. Steve, I finally got time to get back on this Chevy. I put a new fuel filter on it. That carburetor has got so much garbage in it. If you can see down there, I mean, it's a whole lot of sediment. That's where your floats sit. So same way on each side right there. See all that dirt in there? It's bad. I'm gonna get all that cleaned back out of the carburetor, and then I've got the top plate sitting over there. I'm gonna blow through the needle and seats and get that cleaned up real good, and hopefully from there we'll be okay. But that's rust out of that tank, so probably he's going to want to think about a tank in the future. Okay guys, unfortunately that's the end of that video. The owner decided to change his own fuel tank out, and that did straighten the problem out after we got the carburetor cleaned. And we did put a new fuel pump on it too. When it run out of gas like it did, it sucked a bunch of garbage up into the carburetor, and he just decided to change his own tank and save the money, which that's just fine. No problem at all. I did get frustrated with that truck, really frustrated, so sorry about that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we got a lot more content coming. Thank you.